playing theater is no brain surgery. No one's gonna die if you fuck up on stage.
How do you deal with negative feedback?
I don't take it personally that's not true, that's a lie. I try not to take it personally.
How do you get into character?
I might have a very controversial stance on this one.
I want to hear it.
Sure, I'm gonna tell you. I don't think that...
Florian Voigt, you've been in the spotlight since childhood, growing up in the theater, dancing, singing, acting on stage. And now you've turned that early passion into a professional acting career. Do you feel like you were just born to be on stage?
Was I born to be on stage? It's certainly been something that has interested me for a very long time in my life. And as you've said, there's been a lot of passions of mine in my childhood that were strongly connected to stage, as dancing, singing, acting. And so I kind of always knew I was gonna choose a career that would bring me on stage. And then throughout, after I finished my my high school and when I started studying, it kind of shaped into the profession I'm pursuing today.
You're a triple threat. You can sing, you can dance, you can act. Why did you decide to focus on the acting part?
Honestly, because it was the thing I understood the least about. I think I understood during my childhood and when I was pursuing all three things non-professionally, but as a hobby kind of. In my free time, I did understand that for singing and for dancing, you need a very strong technique. And you need a very strong base of that in order to become, to gain some virtuosity and to become free and to be able to express yourself through that technique. And I don't want to say I mastered any of those two techniques, but I kind of got a hang of what they were about. And I had a better understanding of what I needed to be, or what would be needed to be great in those professions. And when I was watching actors on stage, I had no idea what they were doing. I felt they were amazing and they touched something within me and I had no clue how they did it.
So now that you are an actor, have you figured out what it takes to be great and what makes an actor good or not?
I still have no idea. No, I'm kidding, of course. But I would say that as opposed to the dancing or the singing, there's less technique. And if there is technique, it's more personal. It's not that there is the one code, like the one ideal you are trying to pursue. As, for example, in ballet, there is one, of course, there are different styles, there are different schools, but there still is one kind of unreachable ideal you try to work towards, knowing you will never reach it. Same, I guess, goes for singing, that there is always something you're trying to pursue. An ideal you try to pursue and you kind of never really get there. And with acting, you're allowed so many imperfections. It doesn't, I don't think there is an ideal. And I think that's what makes it so beautiful, what makes it so rich, what also makes it so subjective. Like one actor, I can think they're amazing, they're incredible, and you may have a completely different opinion of them and of what they're doing. I don't know. I think what makes an actor great, or what I think makes an actor great, or what me touches in a performance of an actor is personality. And when they're when they when they give something of themselves, when they're honest with me, when they're not trying to pursue me into thinking something, or pursue me or trick me into feeling something, but when they're just honest with me. I think, simplicity. I think that makes you really great. And then, of course, there is a virtuosity in technique and in the language, in the way you use the language on stage. So there's all of that, but yeah, what really gets me is, I think, simplicity and honesty on stage.
So you're still quite a young actor. What does it take to get a job as an actor? What kind of school did you go to? How is the audition process? What is that like?
As you said, like the best way to get there is through schooling. Doing a drama school, I did 2 different ones. I started when I was 19. After I finished high school, I started auditioning in various drama schools, although all in like the German-speaking world, like Austria, Germany, Switzerland. And didn't really work out. I think I was very young. I was still very green behind my ears. And then I auditioned for a school in the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland, the Accademia Teatro Dimitri, which is not a school like the for the typical like spoken word theater. It's physical theater. It's a school, one of the few schools where you can study physical theater in Europe.
What is physical theater versus spoken theater?
You're asking a very difficult question to answer. Nobody really knows what physical theater is. I would explain it in a way that it's exploring on the line of dance, mime, circus, trying. It's mainly theater that, as its primary way of expression, doesn't use language, doesn't use words, doesn't use a text, but the body and physical physical ways of expression, and it explores around there. But there is no one type or one style of physical theater.
And do you think that worked out because of your previous experience of dancing, and so you had that physical expression already?
Definitely. I think the dancing, or my background in dancing, when I got into the school, I had been dancing for 16 years, classical ballet. As a hobby always. I never like pursued it professionally. But when I got in there, I had that experience, and I think it really helped me get into that school and like get my foot in the door of professionalization, I guess.
From physical theater to now spoken word, how did you make that journey? How did you end up now working as an actor, a theater actor?
The school in Ticino, in Verso, it's called, like the place where I studied. It's a bachelor's degree, and it takes you 3 years. And during the second year, I realized it wasn't really what I wanted to do professionally afterwards. Because with physical theater, with it being not quite defined what it is, you often end up doing your own projects. You often end up working as a freelancer, trying to audition for certain projects or trying to put your own projects on stage, and I realized that wasn't quite what I wanted to do. I rather wanted to focus on interpretation and on getting on stage myself than, and I think I realized I was willing to compromise on like not being able to choose which roles I would play, but then like getting to play more. So I realized that during the second year of the school. And then during the third year, I started auditioning again for other schools that were more oriented towards spoken theater. And I got offered 2 places, one in Leipzig and one in Munich. And I decided to go to Munich to the Otto Falckenberg Schule and study 4 more years. And yeah, that's, I kind of, there was like 1 week overlapping where I was finishing my studies in Ticino and starting in Munich. And I just slid from one school into the other and transitioned like that. After that, like you finish the school there, and then you have what is called Absolventinnenvorsprechen, which is like the final auditions, but auditions for theaters. So you as a class prepare an audition program that is around an hour and a half for all the students, where they present each other. And the idea is that there are people who work in the business, who are directors, who are directors of theaters, come and watch and ideally invite you to audition for their theater. That's what happened with me. I did that. I had several auditions afterwards, and I got chosen to start a 2-year contract in a German city called Trier, which is close to the border of France and Luxembourg. And I was working there for 2 years, and now I was able to transition from Trier to the Schauspielhaus Zürich, and I'm coming to Zurich. I'm starting this summer. Next season, I'll be here in Zurich playing.
Amazing! I'm excited to see you on stage. I can't wait. I'm curious about one thing: the audition process.
Mm-hmm.
You walk into a room, and then who is there? What happens? What do you have to do? And how do they determine if you are the person they're looking for a role?
How they determine that, I have no idea. Otherwise, I don't think I'd be so nervous before I go in. I think what usually happens is it also varies greatly from place to place, from audition to audition. What usually happens is you're asked to prepare a set of roles. Usually they say we want one modern role and one classical role. It's usually to see whether you're able to work with different kinds of genres, different kinds of texts. And then they might request a song or a third role of your choice or something. So you usually prepare your things, your audition program. You go to the theater. You get like half an hour, sometimes less, sometimes more. And then you come into a room, which is usually like a very terribly lit rehearsal stage, sometimes very small, sometimes bigger. I've had auditions like on the big stage of the theater, and I've had auditions in like some tiny room tucked away in the basement. You come in there, and then there's also a variety of what happens and how many people are there. I've had auditions where there were like 10 people watching me in a room that was completely lit. So you could, while you were playing, look into their very concentrated and very, very mean faces. And there were like 10 people. Usually, not all of those people have something to say. Sometimes they just invite the assistants to seem more intimidating, like that there are more people. And then I've had auditions where there were just 2 people who actually have something to say in the room and who were watching me. And after that, you go home. And a few weeks later, you'll find out. Sometimes they work with you, like sometimes they ask you to do something differently with one of your roles, with one of your monologues, and sometimes they provide you with a pianist to sing a song, and sometimes they just say, "Thank you, we'll be in touch."
Thank you, we'll be in touch is probably really nerve-wracking because you have no idea what's going to happen afterwards.
Definitely. You really don't have any idea because it can be good, it can be bad. It's not like they say, "Thank you, we'll be in touch," and they're never in touch. But they're usually seeing 5 other people that day, and the next one is already waiting outside the door. So, yeah. They haven't spoken to each other. They really can't tell, and then you wait, that which is the nerve-wracking part. I think as long as I have something to do, like something I can do to change the outcome when I'm preparing my roles, when I'm preparing for an audition, I kind of don't get so nervous about it. I think the nerve-wracking part is when I know I've done my part and I can't do anything now to influence the decision, but I just have to wait, and the decision will be made, and I don't know when, and I don't know how long I'll have to wait, and someday someone will call me. I think that's when I'm getting paranoid. That's when I'm constantly checking my emails and my phone and like, oh my God, it's been a week. Are they going to call this month? Are they going to call next month? Well, the holidays are going ahead, so I think I'm safe for the summer. But when do they start to go back to work and stuff like that?
Rehearsals, preparation, shows.
Mm-hmm.
What goes into putting on a show? How do you prepare? What happens during the rehearsal process?
We usually rehearse a production depending on the size of the production, but it's usually like between 6 and 8 weeks. When that's a period I'm actively getting in touch with the material, working with the director, working with the other cast members. Of course, there is a preparation period before that for me, but especially also for the creative team, like the director, the dramaturg, the set designer, and everything. Like especially set and costumes, the ideas have to be done by the beginning of the rehearsal period because like they have to be made, they have to be produced. But yeah, 6 to 8 weeks is the rehearsal period for me, where I'm actively working on a production. And that starts with sitting at a table and reading the script for the first time with the cast in the roles, to getting your first steps on stage, going back to the table, arguing and talking about what's written there, what we want to do, what we want to try, what we want to tell with this particular play and with this setting of the play. And then it starts to get more and more practical. You start to get away from the table, get on stage, play, try things, which is a word I really like in German, proben, probieren. which is basically, which means to rehearse, but like especially to try, and hence to fail and to try better. I think that's a beautiful thing about my profession, or especially about rehearsing. You get to try and to fail. And then you try again, you fail again. And then you try again and fail again. And then you try again, fail again, but fail maybe a little bit less. And then you know, okay, there's something. And you try to find that something, and to know, okay, what's been different between the thing that was a little bit less terrible than all the others. And you try to get an idea. And those 8 weeks are basically finding that thread and looking where it takes you. Of course, there are people who have ideas, but ideas clash. And I think there's nothing worse than a director who is unable to let go of their of the ideas they've had at home at their desk, when something is happening in the rehearsal that is far better, or that works better with that actor, or in the combination of two actors. So yeah, 6 to 8 weeks of that. Towards the end, like the last 2 weeks, you're usually on stage, and the rehearsing, the trying and failing gets less, or the trying gets less. Maybe the failing doesn't get less, but the trying certainly gets less, because you have to make something. You have to decide on certain things. You go on stage. There's the light. There's the set. There's the costumes. Everything comes together, and then there's a premiere, and then I'm playing that show several times in front of an audience. You always say, and that's interesting, I think, because with an audience, I feel like you only fully understand how a play works with an audience, which is why I think after you've played something 3 times with an audience, you kind of begin to understand how the play really works in a dialogue, because that's the special thing about my profession, or about any profession that involves live art, and yeah, a stage.
You think that that's because during the performances you get the reactions from the audience, so you can actually start to understand what's working in the dialogue, or in what you're doing on stage.
In the timing, in which jokes that maybe we thought were incredibly funny in the rehearsal because they were like insiders, they don't work on stage sometimes. And that then means, okay, you need a different timing, or you need, or also when you're playing something really emotional, first of all, after you've done it 10, 15, 20 times in front of the same person, in front of the director, it kind of like, it gets boring for me and for them. And they're not as invested, and I'm not as invested as a consequence in that. But I've had the experience that I've had a very emotional scene where I was alone on stage, and it was terrible during rehearsals. Like I was like, this is so fake. It doesn't work. And then you have an audience there, and they're feeling with you, and you feel like this. You send something out into the room, and you feel this wave of compassion coming back, and you're in a dialogue with them. And that's what I mean when I say, okay, after the 3rd performance, you kind of start getting a hang of it. After the 5th performance, you kind of get the freedom to really play with that, and to understand, okay, the mechanics and the timing, and how that show works actually in a dialogue with the audience. Because that's what's beautiful about the live aspect of stage, that you are in a dialogue, and you're not like, it's not something you produce and it's done, and then you press play or something, but it's something that happens again every evening. And every evening I'm coming out of a different situation. Maybe I've had a great evening, maybe I've had a really terrible day, and the audience is different every time. They're coming from different news, they're coming from different backgrounds. It's different people, and so every show is kind of different because that connection is different. They're reacting differently, which doesn't mean that a lot of reaction is better necessarily. Sometimes the people that are the most concentrated are like, it's like the most quiet audience, and you get off stage and like, are they even there? And then someone was inside and was like, no, they were so concentrated, they were so into it, they were like, they didn't they didn't want to react, they didn't want to disturb you or anything. So yeah.
When you're on stage and you're having such an emotional moment, the dialogue with the audience is clear to me in the sense that if you're doing something funny, you might hear them laughing or clapping or whatever. But when it's something serious or emotional, how do you manage to feel this wave of compassion from the crowd? What happens that you feel that?
It gets really quiet. That is one thing. I think because it's such a, like, it's usually a lot of people, like 500 to 700 people that are watching. And I think it's just the energy in the room that shifts, and that you can feel how it changes, how the breath of the 700 people who are watching me changes because I've said something or because I've done something. And that is very satisfying, to be honest. It's when they observe something, when you, because I know what's going to happen, but they usually don't. So I think it's, you just feel if they're with you, if they're following you on the way you kind of propose to them, or whether they're not there yet, or whether they're not available. And it's never like the whole audience. There are always people who might not be into it, or who might not be with you, but it's kind of like the majority. You get a feel of the room. So yeah, I think indicators, they, when suddenly everything turns very quiet and they're very like, that's kind of a joke. An older actor told me once to start your monologue when you have a long scene and a long monologue, to kind of say the first sentence too quietly and not very articulate, so everyone in the seat goes like that when they're not very very active. It's like, this is what happens, you know.
They move closer because they
move
feel
closer
like they miss something.
Exactly. So you kind of you say quietly, and of course that's a joke. I don't know if anyone actually does that. I don't do that. I try to reach them from the very very first moment, but like, to get their attention is like, when you feel they're not paying attention, to not go look for them, but to make them come towards you. I think that's the point of this little anecdote. But yeah, I think it's an energy you just feel from a room of people.
Sometimes it's an energy you feel. Sometimes it's something you see. I went to a performance that was a 5-hour long performance, and the audience was not having it. they were not enjoying it. And I'm someone who, even if I don't like the show, I feel like I want to stay in my seat because I know it's not the actor's fault if something is staged in a way that is maybe not the nicest, and I want to respect the effort and what it takes to stand on that stage. So yeah, this 5-hour long show I was watching, about a half hour in, like the first people started standing up and walking out and leaving the theater, and then it turned into a constant stream of people walking out. Have you ever experienced something like that? Or in general, how do you deal with maybe negative feedback or difficult feedback to a performance?
I think any performance or any kind of art actually is an invitation, and especially with theater, with, I would say, non-commercial theater. Like, of course, musical theater or certain productions of musical theater are cut out to please and to entertain a lot of people.
Those are for me. I love those.
Which is amazing. I love to watch that as well. But at the same time, I feel there should be space for maybe productions that are not for everyone, or for productions that are more challenging or that are unpleasant to watch. Like if you're saying something for 5 hours, yeah, I can absolutely. I'm a total sucker for that. I love that. I love watching something very long and kind of getting into a state of, into an alternate state of, okay, I'm enjoying this. I'm having a connection with them, and yeah, I remember one show I was watching, which was 10 hours long. There were breaks. There were intermissions.
I would hope so.
Yes, definitely. But they were. It was something about like Greek mythology, and in the first part it was about Prometheus being chained to the Caucasus, and like just time passing, and like the situation was, okay, this is going to take 10 hours, and like half an hour in, there was nothing happening on stage. It was just this actor chained to the rock, to the brick, and then other actors like one by one, very slowly coming in, dressed as sheep. And it was nothing. And okay, this is going to take very, very long. And they were playing like with that aspect of, okay, is anything going to happen now? Or are we just watching sheep grazing underneath chained Prometheus? Which I thought was brilliant. Other people, that was the moment they left. But yeah, I think I think you should accept that what you're doing is an invitation and it's not for everyone. And you might buy a ticket and you might see something that was not cut out for you, that was not for you, which I don't think should prevent you from buying another ticket to another show and from like trying something else. I don't take it personally that's not true, that's a lie. I try not to take it personally when someone is not into a production, even if it's something I'm very fond of. And I think you shouldn't, like, the audience shouldn't take it personally if we are trying something that wasn't for them. Another colleague recently told me, because it can also, like, boredom can also be it can also be a strategy. A different colleague told me recently that they were making a show, and they wanted to make a subtitle to the title of the show, which is like the title of the show was something, and the subtitle would be "Guaranteed More Boring Than This Other Director." Which I thought they couldn't do it because the theater didn't want them to. But I think it was so funny because both of the directors are known to have very long and very very long and exhausting styles of directing. So I thought that was really funny, like to play with that anticipation. Yeah. And then again, yeah, sometimes something just isn't for you. And I have those moments. I go and watch colleagues, or sometimes not even colleagues, but things that sound interesting to me, and I'm in there, oh God. But that's okay. Like in those moments, I try to think about, okay, this is also a privilege. Like to be bored. When does it happen nowadays? Like when? How many times are you trapped by convention in a dark space with 300 other people, and you just think, oh my God, this is so boring. I want to look at my phone, but I can't look at my phone, and I want to do something else. So I try to see that aspect of it, which, yeah.
I guess that's a good perspective to take. Realistically, if I'm in a show and I'm bored, I'm kind of like, I'm not that positive about it. Like you put it in a very positive and nice light. But I also,
I try to sell it to you.
For me personally, hearing, for example, about that show that was 10 hours long and then just waiting for something to happen is not my cup of tea. But there are people who love that. Like you said, it was brilliant. And that's what makes theater interesting. And it's so subjective, and each individual can love it or hate it and interpret it differently.
Absolutely.
So that's what keeps it interesting as well. Now, earlier you were saying you think some of the best actors are quite simple and they don't try to convince you of anything. They're authentic. How do you get into character?
That's a very difficult question to answer, because I don't know where to start here. I might have a very controversial stance on this one.
I want to hear it.
Sure, I'm going to tell you. I don't think there is a character.
Okay.
I think there are lines on a piece of paper, and there is a situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to behave and I'm trying to say those lines as if they were coming out of my mouth spontaneously in that situation. But the character that is written on that paper doesn't exist, never has. It's an idea. Those lines, the text is an idea. I would say there is only text and situation, and I'm trying to play that. That is my approach. Many people might disagree with me very much on that. And sometimes I do disagree with me on that. But I think I'm not a big fan of method acting. I'm not a big fan of someone who throws themselves into a character for half a year and tries to become that person. I don't think it makes you a better actor. I don't think it makes a better result in the end on stage. You have to bear in mind I'm trained for stage. I'm mainly doing stage. So far in my career, I'm not I don't dislike camera acting. I don't dislike. It's just not what I mainly do. But for the stage, it wouldn't be very method acting, or like throwing yourself into a character like that wouldn't be very efficient, for one, because I have like those 8 weeks of rehearsal period, and then the show goes into repertoire, and I'm rehearsing something else, but I'm playing that first show like 2 to 3 to 4 evenings a week while I'm rehearsing something else. So what happens after the premiere and when I'm starting to rehearse something else again? Which character am I? Yeah, I just don't think the concept of getting into character, of forgetting that you're playing something, to me, it doesn't sound very sane. It doesn't sound very healthy. And I can only speak from my personal experience. When I'm on stage, I'm aware that I'm on stage. I'm aware that there is a colleague. I'm aware that there are lights. I'm aware that there's an audience. And that's very important. Otherwise, it might get very, very dangerous, because there is also like, you gotta help me with the word, Verabredungen.
Like an agreement?
Yeah, exactly. There are also agreements, things you've agreed to during the rehearsal process, and I can't forget about those. Like, I'm aware of those. I'm aware that when I'm playing something, when I say a certain word, that door will open and a colleague will come in and answer or say something, give me a new information. I rely on that. I can't forget that. I also have lines I have to remember. So I think like the idea, like which is also like I think an idea a lot of people have of actors, like that I throw myself into a character, I try to become that character. I don't. I try to create an illusion for who is watching me, an illusion of a character, which I create by saying words that are not mine, acting like someone who is not me in a situation I probably haven't been in before, or maybe I have, but those are not my words. It's not my situation. It's not me. But I am trying to convince you it is. And I'm trying to create the illusion through my technique, through the words, through the situation, through the interactions with my partners, that what you're looking at is happening. But at the same time, there is this level of abstraction. Like, you're in a theater, you're with a few hundred other people watching all in the same direction, for looking at people who are telling you a story. Like, there is a general agreement that it's not real. Like, when someone gets stabbed in the theater, I don't think many people would like call an ambulance or the police or something. There is an agreement that it's not real. And so if everybody else knows it's not real, why should I try to convince myself that it's real? Coming back to your questions, how do I get into character? As a premise, what I've just said, of course I try to concentrate before. Of course I try to remember the lines, to remember the agreements, to get my body ready, to get my voice ready, in order to be heard, in order to be able to do what I'm expected to do on stage. But I would say the character is crafted, is created by the staging I've worked on for 8 weeks, by the costume, by the light, by the situation, by my colleagues, and through the text.
Since you are very aware of the fact that it is not reality, you have an audience watching you. Mm-hmm. Do you ever get nervous when you step on stage?
Definitely. Absolutely. all the time. I don't know if I get nervous. I'm usually nervous before, and the moment I step on stage, and I start, and I get the hang of the energy of that evening, of maybe the colleague I haven't seen for 2 weeks, and we get into the scene again. Usually, then it fades away. But before that, of course, I'm very nervous. Like, people are watching me paying to watch me do something. Something I've worked for, but still, like, there is expectation that plays a role. I do get nervous, absolutely.
Do you have a hack or a trick to deal with those nerves?
Jump right into it, I'd say.
Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah. If you try to back away from it, it only gets worse. Like the hurdle you need to jump over is only gonna get higher if you're do it. It will happen. And also, like, playing theater is no brain surgery. No one's gonna die if you fuck up on stage. If you don't remember your line, maybe people will get angry. But usually, my experience, when I'm in the audience and I see an actor on stage that forgot their line and they have to ask a prompter or how do we continue? What's my next line? It usually creates a wave of sympathy for that actor, because it demonstrates that it's all live. It's happening right now. They're actual human beings. It makes them more authentic, and it makes what they're doing, the illusion, for a tiny little moment fades away, and it shows the craftsmanship that is behind what's happening right now. So I've never seen an audience get angry because an actor has not remembered a line or something.
I've experienced that as well. It's quite the opposite, actually. When they then get back into it, often there's an applause or just like people cheering them on to keep going and saying it's okay, like, we understand.
Yes, mm-hmm. We all make mistakes, and as I said, like, the stakes seem so high in the moment you're stepping on stage and you want to do everything right and stuff like that. But first of all, I don't think there's a right and wrong in acting, which again, like, circles back to how I view acting and how I view, like, the character. I don't say that's the only way to view it or to do it. It's my way. It's what I think works best for me, and sometimes I shift in that. There are texts, there are productions that push me more into one side or more into another side, or technique, and directors that expect certain things or try to work with you in a certain way that might work for you, or it might not work for you. But I don't think. What I wanted to say, that the stakes are high, but as I said, no one's gonna die. No one's gonna get hurt if you mess up. No one's gonna. It's okay. We're human.
Only you might die if the director comes and shoots you because you messed up.
That's why premieres are so stressful.
Because they're there. What?
Yes, exactly.
And then
afterwards they're gone, and you're good, and you can breathe, and you can have your feet. No, I mean that's not always true. There are some directors that are amazing and that you really like, the cliche of the terrible angry director, and you're glad when they're gone. can be true sometimes, but I don't think it's usually the case.
Let's time travel for a moment. You're standing in front of 10-year-old Florian. What advice would you like to give him?
Be patient. Be patient and continue. And it's going to happen. Definitely. I think when it comes to this profession, playing the long game is key. Because you might not be ready in this moment, or people might not be ready for you in this moment. But if you continue to work on your craft, if you continue to be interested and to believe in yourself, at some point someone will come along who thinks it's interesting what you're doing, and it's going to click and it's going to match. And it sounds so cheesy. It sounds so like what everybody says, what you write on calendars and postcards. But I think in this profession it's really true. The game is lost when you've given up. And I do understand that some people have to give up because it's not sustainable anymore, because it's financially not sustainable, or time-wise not sustainable anymore, to wait for your turn or to wait for your opportunity. But anyone who has the means, the emotional, the energetic means to keep trying, I would always encourage them, because you actually do get better trying, and you actually improve. And even if you don't get a job, you gain experience. And it's something I never wanted to hear. Do it for the experience. But in the end, you never know who's going to remember you, or who you're going to meet that might at some point, I don't want to say come in handy, because it feels like you're just doing things to use people afterwards. But which connection is going to get you further at some point, maybe a lot later in life. And so I would say to little Florian, keep trying and be patient, and it's gonna turn out perfectly fine.
And sometimes you just need that one person who believes in you.
You need that one person who sees you and who sees your potential. And that doesn't always happen right away. It doesn't always happen in school. It doesn't always happen in the first year of your career, or in the second year, or even in the 10th year of your career. But I'm sure if you have the energy and if you have the means to wait, that person is going to come along.
To wrap up this conversation, I'd like to do a quick round where I just ask this or that, and you just answer as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
You don't look very excited about
No, I am very excited. I'm like, what if, no.
Don't worry.
Impulse training, come on.
You're an actor. You have to be able to react.
Yes,
like, improvise.
Exactly. You're so right. Yeah, I think that's the problem. Now I have to prove just bring it.
Let's do it. You said you just have to do it.
Yes.
I already know the answer to the first one, but stage or screen?
Stage.
That was easy. See, you're good. Comedy or tragedy?
Personally, tragedy. I do like a good cry, but I think it depends on with whom and by whom. Comedies can be amazing, but as a personal taste, tragedy.
Dialogue or monologue?
Dialogue. Dialogue.
Biggest theater crush could be a character.
Biggest theater crush. It's not a character. I would have to say Maya Beckmann. She's a German actress, and she, for example, like to come back to the beginning of our conversation, she is one of those people who I just adore watching, because it's not actually that simple, but it seems so simple and so pure what she's doing, and so like there isn't, so honest and so direct. And it has happened to me that I watched a show where she was playing, and she had like a 25-minute monologue in that particular show, and she started, and minute 2 I was crying, I was sobbing all the way through, because she has this capacity, for me at least, to reach you directly, and not here but here. I just adore watching her. I think it's so great what she's doing, and I'm not thinking about it technically. I'm just enjoying.
Just feeling it.
Yes, that was a very long answer for a quick fire round.
That's fine. I didn't say they had to be short.
Okay.
So, prepared, performance, or improvised?
Prepared, because I know what I'm doing. Prepared, and then find the freedom inside of that preparation to improvise. Improvisation is such high stakes, I think, for me. There are people who are really good at it. I don't know if I am. I don't want to know if I. No, but no. I like to be prepared for what I'm doing.
Florian, I know you prefer being on stage versus being on camera, but thank you so much for being here on the podcast, and for being on camera, and for taking the time. And I wish you only the very best for your career, and I can't wait to see you on stage.
Thank you very much. Come, you're invited. Anyone who's listening, anyone who's watching is very much invited to come to Zurich to come and watch. I'll be on stage here in Zurich starting September 18th for the time coming.
You heard Florian. Go and see him on stage.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing.